The icy winds of Rel 7 howled through the dense, jagged forests as the alien girl stumbled through the underbrush, her breathing shallow and ragged. Her scales, once a vibrant shade of emerald, were now dull and cracked, while her taloned hands trembled with exhaustion. The girl, Zira, was a Xeralin, one of the galaxy's more fragile species, known for their intellectual prowess rather than physical strength. She had been left to die here, abandoned by her own crew after an ambush by the relentless Zira, a race of monstrous apex predators native to the planet. Her people had fled without her, deeming her survival impossible on such a hostile death world. In their cold logic, Zira had become expendable, a burden, a lost cause. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Zira clung to life. The Xeralin's guttural roars echoed in the distance, growing closer. She limped forward, her vision blurring from pain and cold. She was sure this was the end. The ground beneath her gave way, and she fell into a shallow ravine, the impact knocking the air from her lungs. That's when she saw him. A figure, clad in a strange suit, appeared out of the swirling snow. Tall, broad-shouldered, and unmistakably human. His helmeted face reflected the dim light as he knelt beside her, his hands moving quickly but gently to check her injuries. Zira's breath hitched. What was a human doing here? You're going to be all right, the human said, his voice muffled through the helmet's comm system, but still carrying an unmistakable tone of calm reassurance. He didn't wait for a response, pulling out a small medkit. Hold still. Zira flinched as he applied a foam-like substance to her wounds. Her people had always viewed humans as reckless, brutal deathworlders, known for their ability to survive in places where no other species dared tread. They were creatures of war, of chaos. Yet this one was saving her. Why? Help me? Zira managed to rasp, her voice barely a whisper. The pain was almost unbearable, but the cold had dulled it somewhat. The human glanced at her, eyes soft behind the visor. Why not? No one deserves to be left behind. He picked her up with surprising ease, despite her size compared to a human female. Zira's body felt like dead weight, her limbs weak and useless. She had never been this close to a human before, and despite her fear, she could sense his strength, his warmth against the freezing air. With Zira cradled in his arms, the human moved swiftly through the harsh landscape, his movements sure and practiced. They passed the twisted, predatory shapes of Xeralin, hunting in the distance, but the creatures didn't approach. Perhaps they sensed that the human was a predator, too, one they did not wish to challenge. Name's Lieutenant Jackson, the human said after a moment, his voice breaking the silence between them. You're lucky I was scouting this region. The Xeralin are nasty, but nothing a little firepower can't handle. Zira's head lolled as she tried to focus on him. Xeralin. He nodded, understanding without her needing to say more. Your crew left you, huh? His tone darkened. Figures. It was shameful, but Zira couldn't deny it. She had been discarded, abandoned because her race was fragile, weak. Her people were supposed to be logical, but in that cold logic, there was no room for mercy. It had almost cost her life. As Jackson carried her to the relative safety of a makeshift camp, Zira found herself drifting in and out of consciousness. The human kept talking, though his voice grew distant, like a warm anchor pulling her back from the abyss. When I saw you out there, I thought, no way I'm leaving someone to die like that, he muttered. We humans might be from a death world, but we don't abandon each other. And we don't abandon anyone who needs help. The human's words echoed in Zira's mind long after the pain had dulled. As night fell, she lay wrapped in blankets near a heat generator, the howling winds now a distant murmur. Jackson was nearby, working on some device, his back turned to her. Zira stared at him, marveling at the contrast between what she had been taught about humans and what she had just experienced. Her own kind had left her for dead, but a human, a creature from a world considered more dangerous than even Rel 7, had risked his life to save hers without hesitation. Why? She asked again, though her voice was stronger this time. You could have left me. Jackson looked up from his work, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the campfire. He took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers with a solemn intensity. Because, he said, I wasn't raised to give up on anyone. Not even a stranger. Zira fell silent, absorbing his words. She realized, in that moment, that humans were more than just the savage warriors her people had believed them to be. Beneath their reputation for violence and survival in the harshest conditions, they possessed a strength far greater than physical prowess, the strength of compassion. The next morning, as the twin suns rose over Rel 7's frozen horizon, Zira knew one thing for certain. She owed her life to a human, a species her people had always underestimated. And she would never forget that.